Oh my gosh, I'm having my own personal Groundhog Day here today with this video. This is, I think, the third time I've attempted to record this. I'm having some serious upload issues. I think it's the speed of our network here at the house this weekend. So I am recording this for hopefully the final time on my webcam. In very low-tech, low-def, but it should still accomplish the goal of downloading this week's video lecture to you, hopefully, and I can get it uploaded and get back to grading that I've been trying to do for you guys. So I know I got some stuff to you last night, hopefully going to finish up tonight after I get this lecture done. So this week I want to talk to you about preparing for your final assignment and connect it to a brief conversation about evaluation, about wrapping a project up and summarizing and evaluating and then summarizing your performance on that project, both in terms of things that were in your control and things that were out of your control. So when you start to think about how to evaluate the performance of any initiative, the first thing you want to do is anchor back to your original plan. You want to go back and look at those measurable objectives you said you were going to try to achieve and start to take a look at quantifying your performance. Did you achieve those objectives successfully as you had hoped to or anticipated you would be able to? But I think also equally important to anchoring back to your quantitative objectives in a balanced way is the qualitative assessment of considering how you did, factors that you had or had not considered, and your response to those factors. You know, where were you complicit in a good way in contributing to the success of a project, and where were you potentially complicit in terms of things that went wrong? You know, from my past lives when I had folks working for me, I know that one of the traits that I valued the most in coworkers and employees was the ability to, in a very balanced and fair way, to assess their performance without a lot of dysmorphic perceptions, distortions about how they did. You know, there's no point in being overly hard on oneself. You also don't want to, you know, paint everything with a rosy picture if it really didn't go well. Being able to very fairly, honestly, clearly, with as few filters or distortions as possible, evaluate how a project really went is a terrific quality for a marketer to have. And it's really what I'm looking for you to practice in this final assignment as you prepare your assessment. So your final assignment is to prepare a standalone presentation that's got an audio and a visual component to it that summarizes how your project went. You can do it with a narrated PowerPoint, you could do it through a video presentation, you could do any kind of clever multimedia approach that you'd like to have. It's totally up to you. And what I'm going to be looking for you to do is to first present to anybody who was watching it who didn't know anything about your project or your plan what you attempted to do through this project or plan. And then after you present your project plan, your measurable objectives, the point of the plan, introduce people to the product, the brand, all the things that we talked about. You're going to then do an evaluation about how you did, the performance of the plan. You know, you're going to consider and map the quantitative outcomes to those that you had initially set. You're going to talk about qualitative assessment. What could you have improved upon? What factors did you adequately consider up front? And what were factors that never even crossed your mind to consider, or that were far more complicated to deal with than you might have anticipated? And it might be really helpful to think across the project triangle when you consider that. Were you derailed, or were you challenged, or did you find it particularly easy to execute the project based on the scope that you had initially framed or anticipated? How did you do in terms of time? How about money, if you had to spend some resources for this? And I know some of you had projects that actually required some investment to be made in your plan. You know, what if you had to do over again, what would you do differently, and what would you keep exactly the same based on what you've learned? Maybe it would be helpful to think about anchoring back to some of the research or information that you've garnered from the readings that you've done. You know, a kind of reflective practice to reflect back to things that you've read or learned and said, boy, I thought it would be easy to do this, and it turns out it was hard. So So I'm not looking for you to essentially grade yourself in this performance, or in this plan, or the outcome of this plan, I should say, but rather I'm really looking for you to demonstrate to me that you can, in a very professional, articulate, well-organized way, present the results of a marketing initiative or effort that you've undertaken. Just like if you had to go into a client and do a sort of post-mortem on a project that you took on for a client, what you might present. Short and sweet, that's what I'm looking for this week. It's what I'd love for us to be talking about on Facebook, is how you start to evaluate what things you focus on, what things you need to step back and do differently in terms of your analysis. It would be great if we could be exchanging ways to structure your presentation. If you haven't ever looked at Prezi, that might be an interesting software tool for you to look at online. You can get a free version of that to try developing a Prezi. I'd love to see you guys use video. I think it would be terrific to see each other on video, but I realize that that can be a constraint for some people if you don't have access to the technology. So at a minimum, voice over PowerPoint should be the way that you deliver up that final presentation. It's not due until next week. You've got plenty of lead time. This lecture's just starting, just is designed to get you to start to think about evaluation. All right, I'll stop blathering here. I've got dogs barking outside that clearly need some attention, so I'm going to go pay attention to them and try to get this uploaded. All right, thanks. Bye.